identify the beliefs. Like whenever you hear yourself saying, I can't do that, or I don't see a way to make that happen, then ask yourself, what do I need? What would have to be true for that to happen? How would I have to be thinking differently to make that happen? Understand that we're always, me too, always thinking too small, right? I'm thinking too small because if I wasn't, I'd be Elon Musk, right? So
Hello, guys, and welcome to Young, Clever, and Wealthy, where I interview the movers and shakers that decided to live an extraordinary life so you can learn how to live on your own terms. Today's guest is Roland Fraser. I'm a big fan of him. He's a serial entrepreneur who built or sold 24 businesses with adjusted sales ranging from 3 million to just under 4 billion. Currently CEO of All Channels Media, principal in Scalable Code, digital marketer, traffic conversion summit, et cetera. Warrior Mastermind. Roland, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So for the people that a little bit don't know you, how would you introduce yourself? And we'll go from there.
I mean, you got the bio, so I'm just I am an entrepreneur. I've been doing it for a long time. I love to buy and sell businesses, and it's just the best thing that you can ever do, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I have a bunch of cool questions for you. The first one is, I'm not going to ask the typical question, how did you start? People can go to the other podcast to learn how did you start. Basically, you studied law and all that stuff. But when did you reach for the first time the 7 figures? And what do you think it took you to go there?
Oh, gosh, that was a long time ago. Probably would be around maybe age 22, 23, something like that.
Wow. I'm 24. So that's amazing. And what was the key to that?
I mean, to me, it was always being an entrepreneur. So I got my real estate license when I was 18 and insurance when I was 19, securities when I was 20. And I just spent, I hustled and also tried to find centers of influence that would allow me to accomplish things faster, and just kind of kept chasing the next level. What's the level up opportunity, right?
Yeah, I love that. So, one of the best compliments that I think someone can give another person is how much wealthy has that person made people around him. So I started, I think, watching you in one of the first Epic challenges in 2019, 2020, something like that.
Yeah.
And then
April of 20.
Adam. Yeah, there was Adam, there was Deanna. And then I joined CFE, I don't know, like 6 months or 4 months ago. And then just seeing the transformation from those two people, it's incredible. I mean, you can talk a little bit about that, but that's the power. I want to preset this with, we're going to talk about CFE. That's the power of what Roland is doing. So tell them about that, because it's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, about CFE, you mean?
About a little bit of, like, so for example, Adam started just working with you, right? And then I don't know how many businesses he owns part of because of you. Same with Diana, he's a partner in, companies with you. It's just amazing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it, is that the proof is in the pudding always. So what's really fun is that the people around you, if the people around you can be successful by taking what they kind of absorb from you just in going through the process and hearing it, that's pretty cool. And Adam has bought a bunch of businesses, and Deanna's done a bunch of the businesses as well. And we're partnered in different businesses as well. So that's, it's really fun. This stuff is actually super fun to do, and it has the benefit of working. So it's kind of hard not to get the knowledge and take some action and actually have it start to happen, and then get kind of hooked on it.
Yeah. One thing that I noticed, from just seeing the recordings and everything, is that you really have a lot of fun. You're a little bit of like Frank Kern. I used to work for him. And, it's, you guys are having fun. There is a call with you and Grant, your friend. You guys are throwing the science at each other. You guys are having fun, but it's like, oh my God. And at the same time, you guys are making tens or hundreds of millions, together. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
not,
I
I mean,
haven't seen that anywhere.
if you don't get to, and Frank and I did a call on CFE also, if I think like a month or so ago. But yeah, man, if you don't get to work with people that you really enjoy and have a good time, then it's kind of, what's the point? You know, making money without having fun sounds like a horrible job, right? So I think
Wow.
it's just identifying. A friend of mine, Mark Anthony Bates, has a saying. Yeah, well, it's a little initial thing. He calls it PFN, and the first thing is people, the second thing is fun, and then comes the money. So PFM in that order.
Okay, I love that. That's a great strategy. So for me, the thing that was very insightful, Roland, is we are programmed not to, I guess, as a society, not to think about buying a business or not to think about consulting for equity, right? And just a simple switch. I'll talk about my results, but I want you to talk about consulting for equity. First, a quick question. How many businesses are you involved in right now? Is it like 40, 50, 100? And then
Yeah,
tell us
so
a bit more about, Epic and CFE.
yeah, so I have 38 holding companies, so 38 companies that are in different verticals, and each of those has its own set of things that it does. So it's kind of like a private equity fund, but it is built with more of your intellectual property than it is. It's kind of like a cashless private equity fund, because when you master the ability to acquire ownership in different companies without having to come out of pocket, looking for creative financing strategies, which we have a couple hundred of now, and also in deciding like what is the thing that I have, the capital that I can bring, that's smart money capital, that is really going to be more valuable to the businesses that you work with than money. When you start thinking about that, then you shouldn't really have to use money. And if you think about the number one thing that family offices and people who've accumulated a lot of wealth really think about, it's wealth preservation. So what these strategies allow you to do is really preserve your wealth, not risk the capital that you've got in terms of dollars or pounds or euro or whatever, and instead invest using what you have in your brain and your creativity and your hustle. And if you can do that and acquire ownership in companies instead of just income, then you're really acquiring wealth that will continue to spin off income even after you've done whatever you're doing to earn the equity in.
Totally. And people, I love that. And Roland, people might think, oh my God, 38 companies, what a pain in the ass. But he has a manager on all of them, right? Where you basically, you can tell better people to the people listening, but you don't have to be there if you don't want to. Some of them maybe you want to be involved. But how's that look like? I mean, tell them the picture of, hey, this is what's going on now. And if you learn about CFE and Epic, this is what life can look for you.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is I don't want to be on the org chart. So if you can live off the organizational chart, so an org chart is basically in a business, it starts with whoever the head of everything is, and usually that's the entrepreneur, meaning you, for whoever's listening or watching, right? And then under that is all of the job titles and descriptions of what has to be done in the business. And quite frequently, there's a lot of those boxes and job descriptions that are you. So it's you're the, head of marketing, you're the head of sales, you're the chief operating officer, you're everything. And even when you get into a business, like if you were to acquire a business or start one up and you're the head operator, then it's going to constrain your ability to do much else, because you need to focus your attention on actually operating the business. When you work above the business, you are thinking of the business itself as your product or service. And you've got operators in there that are focused on selling the widgets or the services or whatever the business is selling. So you're really focused at a higher level on managing your portfolio. And that is very liberating, because you aren't required to be in the business. It would actually be bad for you to have to be involved in the business, because if you were, and then you tried to sell it, you'd have to be in a contract to consult for some period of time. So it's much, much more powerful, I think, when you think about, okay, I'm going to acquire this, and I want either operators to be in place, or I'm going to put operators in. And that gives you tremendous freedom. So I think that, and also same thing, like versus a startup to acquire, like whatever you want to do, we know that 9 out of 10 startups fail. So instead of going through all of the risk of your time and effort and money and having a business that may or may not succeed, but is more likely to not succeed than it is to succeed, why not just acquire one that already exists, that's past that, horrible, tough time, that's found its product market fit, that's found its customers, that has sales, that has profits. It's so much easier. And by the way, it probably has an operator. Even if that operator wants to leave, you can hire somebody that works there already. The operator might want to stay and just not be an entrepreneur anymore. You can find one through your network. You can talk to consultants that have served the business. Some of the employees there might want to step up, right? There's a lot of places to not have to be the person that's running the show.
Yeah. For people listening, one of the cool things that usually happens when you're in these calls with Roland is that they go over time, because again, goes back to what we talked about. He just likes doing it, and he's like, oh, well, we can do this, right? Or you can do this, you can do that. And personally speaking, I think this is one of the biggest opportunities out there. Like if you guys look at the landscape in business online, there's the real estate people, there is the crypto people, but then there's Roland in the buying businesses, which it can be applied to whatever skill set you already currently have, and just go run with it. And I just think that's amazing. I think if someone, would you agree with me, Roland, that if someone would to get started in wanting to go to to 7 figures, wanting to build wealth, that would be kind of the best option out there?
I mean, I don't know any way. So I've done a whole lot of things in my life. I've started a ton of businesses. I've been involved in, quite a few different industries. And I just don't know any way to get there faster. Like to me, I'm always looking for what is the way to collapse the time between where I am right now and where I want to be. And so the cool thing about acquisitions is you can determine where you want to be in terms of the company that you want to own and be there the minute that you close the deal. It doesn't take any time at all. It's just, it happens. If you identify the company, you work the deal, the day that you close that deal, you're there. And I don't know any way to do it faster or with less risk. Because the other cool thing is that you're there and you have certainty. Like it's not you're there and you're hoping that all the plates that you're spun to get there aren't going to fall off. You get there and it's done, ready to go, handed to you, end of story.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And lastly, to paint the picture of the types of businesses that Roland owns, and there is a very smart way you go about it with, having like a media company and then using the media company to prop up everything else, right? So for my digital marketing friends, et cetera, tell us a little bit of how that works, high level, because a lot of the people that come and listen to me are marketing agencies, are agency owners, so they could have a really huge impact. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, so I use a thing that I created called the acquisition wheel, which really looks at 7 different areas of what is it that you want. So if you already own a business, if you own a digital marketing agency, let's just use that as an example, then the first place you can say is, what do I want? Let's say I want market share. I want more customers. Great. Well, then there are plenty of digital marketing agencies out there. And, I've bought digital marketing agencies. You can do that. And if you do it and find one, like you want to double your business, then just go find a competitor. And it could be a direct competitor, one that's selling exactly what you sell in the exact same market. But it could also be somebody that's selling different kinds of digital marketing services, because it could be somebody that's doing YouTube ads and you do Facebook and Instagram, or it could be somebody that's doing copy or content marketing, or, any number of things, because there's so many specialties. And it might be serving the same or a different market, right? It might be serving people that are owners of car washes, or, a vertical that you don't currently serve. So that's the first place. The second place would be, I need more leads. Okay, I want more leads. Then you look to say, who's already aggregated the attention and eyeballs of my ideal customer? Where is my ideal customer hanging out in bulk right now? And who's got them? And let's just go by that. That's called media, right? And then excuse me, if you need more capabilities, who's got the capabilities that I need? Maybe you're like, you know what, if I had an outbound call center that was trying to get me more clients for my agency, I could totally kill it. Or an inbound call center, or maybe if I could just develop some software that would help people manage their ad spend or something like that. All of that's available. People have already built ad teams. People have already built rep networks. People have already built call centers. They've already built software dev teams, and you can go and acquire. They even call it a name. It's called acqui-hiring. If you want to increase your average order value, then you can say, okay, well, what are the products and services, or the companies that have products and services that my customers are buying before they buy from me, during the time they buy from me, or after the time they buy from me? That's going to increase my average order value because there's more that I can sell them on the front end. If I need a higher lifetime customer value, I can say, well, what are the recurring revenue things that I could buy? What things could I buy that are subscription based or auto ship based or anything like that? A consumable of some sort, whether it's in credits of content marketing or it's in toothpaste, right? All of those are consumable. And when you do that, when you add those recurring, whether it's annual or monthly, that's going to increase your lifetime customer value because the people keep buying again and again and again with zero acquisition costs because you've already paid the hurdle. You've already paid the toll to get them in the first time. If you need more margin, you can buy up and down the supply and distribution chain. If you're selling through affiliates or somebody like that, and you're paying them a commission to do, you can simply acquire that. If you're outsourcing your customer service or your content marketing, or you provide one particular agency service, but you want to add something else, then just acquire that, because all of those people are in your value chain, slicing up the total profit that's available, which is finite. And they're taking pieces of it. If you go and acquire up and down supply and distribution, now you can own more and more and more of that ultimate value chain that's there and capture more of the profit. And if you need to have innovation and think about new things because you're like, oh man, things are getting stale, and I got to figure out some new stuff to offer, and you see some up and comers that might be potentially causing you trouble, then you can go and acquire that intellectual property. If you look on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or any of those things, they're always talking about acquiring, like doing a royalty, and let's not build a company on this. Let's just go to the people that already sell it and do it. You are the people that are already selling it. So you go and find some of those people that are creating new things, and you license or acquire that technology or that intellectual property. That can be very powerful. Those 7 things are going to provide an infinite ability to identify new things that you can add on to solve for whatever challenge you have in your business, and no risk because it's already working for the people that you're buying from.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, so much value right there. And listen, if you guys want the details, we're going to put the link the below. I mean, of course, this is all everything is in detail. He just went on. This is, although it looks like it's a lot, it's just like the bare minimum that he talked about. There's so much more for everything that he discussed. That's on the training. We'll put the link below. But one cool thing that I want to add that that I learned from you, Roland, is that great, you just bought that thing. Well, now the value of your, I guess, holding corporation owning those things is all of a sudden way more, right? So when you want to sell, that's awesome. Another thing is, here's a testimonial. I bought 50% of a branding agency recently, and totally complimentary, and it was all thanks to to what you teach. And it's so it's so revealing. It's so it's just totally paradigm shift, right? We're taught to be media buyers, we're taught to be worker bees, right? And then all of a sudden I acquired this PR agency Roland has like 7 or 8 of my ideal clients already.
That's so great. It's Congratulations. That's really
it's mind blowing. So
I love seeing
people,
what you've done.
This works. Yeah. I'll tell you about it. But so that's 1, that's 2. And then number 3 is, here's what I think a lot of people, and even talking to Roland, to people inside of CFE where they get stuck. And I'd love to hear your opinion is, they don't believe they can do it. They don't believe they can do it, right? Why should I? Like, I'm 24 or I'm 64. Why should I, right? Or I'm just this person. So what would you tell those people?
Well, I'd start by saying the greatest shackles and chains and limitations are those that we place on ourselves without meaning to. And so I think that the way around it is number one, awareness. So conscious incompetence is the first thing. So that is, hey, you can do this. Like this exists, and it is a strategy that is out there. And then the next one is kind of a conscious competence. So you go from like unconscious incompetence to a conscious incompetence, I guess I should say. So now you're aware of you're problem aware. You know that there's this thing that is holding you back, is a belief that you've got in your head. And then we move to conscious competence, where you're thinking, well, what can I do to get around that? Well, that's really what I try to make happen for you in the training. I think that you need three things to make change. You need a model that works, which we have. You need a mentor who has done what you want to do, who can help guide you when you're off course. And if you're having a challenge with confidence, say, okay, what's holding you back? What do you have to do? You know, this is the next step for you. And I'm going to hold you accountable to take that step. If you truly want to do change, you're going to move outside your comfort zone a little bit. But what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is that you'll be where you are now, and you won't have the deal that you didn't have anyway. Right. And, you know, well, okay, but I don't know how to do it. Great. I got you there. That's back to the model. So with the model and the mentoring, that allows us to get you handheld to the place where you can take the action. Now, you do have to take the action. You've got to want that. Right. But we can certainly help prompt you along to do that. And then the other cool thing is the last of those 3 M's is the mastermind, right? So having a group of people that you're doing it with and seeing them do it, so that there's the social proof and you're doing it while they're doing it. So we do our things in cohorts of 8 weeks, where we basically take a group of people and say, okay, let's go buy some companies. You know, let's go acquire some companies through consulting for equity. And we'll do sprints where we say, okay, this is where we're starting. We're all starting at the same place today. Ready, set, go. Here's what we're going to do this week. Here's what we're going to do that week. And if you stick with that, it's kind of hard not to get the confidence that it can happen, because we have so many people that have done deals, including yourself. And we have so much support in terms of coaching, in terms of content, in terms of, you know, proof. And then we've got this community that you're working with. I don't know how to think about how we could support people any better other than actually doing it for them, in which case I think I'd just keep it myself.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, exactly. Which, you know, kind of leads me to a small little idea. It's almost like, maybe you guys already have it, Roland, where if someone finds a freaking awesome deal and they don't really want to do it, do you guys already have that?
Yeah, so we've got about 1,600 people currently in our deal community that are all referring deals back and forth. And so it's really great, because if, let's say that there is some capital that's needed, you know, some funding that's needed, then there are people in there that are doing that. If there's an operator that's needed to do some particular thing, if people want to partner up because it's too big for them, if it's not for you and you want to just pass it off to somebody else, but you want some, you know, that somebody else might really want that deal, and then they give you, you know, a piece of that, or a success fee or a finder's fee or something like that. So that community to me is really, really valuable.
Yeah, totally. And totally, you know, and plus, I mean, you have software, you know, you're talking, we're walking the talk, talking the walk, whatever. Well, because you have a software that accompanies all this stuff, you know, that's pretty cool. But Roland, I want to shift a little bit and ask a little bit about how has it, like, an apparent failure that you have had helped you become better and eventually succeed, and what was the lesson?
Yeah, I mean, I've had so many failures. I've lost count, because I don't think that you can be successful without not succeeding, right? There's just nothing like taking action, and hopefully you get it right the first time, but every time that you don't, it is a lesson that helps you to move forward. And so I guess I just don't see, like, I have lots of things that don't work out. You know, I have plenty of stories. I have an $800 million deal I missed out on, you know.
Oh my God.
That is just part of the game, right? But if you're not failing, then there's no way that you can ever succeed, because you're not going to succeed 100% of the time. Like, if you think about that, the only way to not fail is to never try, to never take action. But if you never try or never take action, then you can never move forward at all. Anything that we do requires some level of failure for us to be able to make progress. And so it's just a question of like, why do we put this big stigma around, failure? I tried this thing and it didn't work. I mean, I've lost so much money and so many deals and had so many things go wrong, but the cool thing is that I do consider them all data. Like, to me, failure points are just data points in our path to success. And if we look at it like that, that's the feedback that says, yeah, that's not really how you do this. Now you know how not to do it, right? So don't make that mistake again, right?
Yeah. And for reference, again, like, so you currently have 38 companies you're involved with. You've probably made, I don't know, like what, 5 or 10 times more deals. But how many failures, how many even attempts, like I want people, you probably, I don't know what number is, but probably you tell me 1,000 or 500, but it's like, start, like just getting to the 500, if you get to the 500, you'll get there, right? So that's a little bit of one thing that, I'd love to hear. It's like how many attempts, how many,
I mean, thousands, absolutely. I mean, I that's like, I've been around for a long time, right? I've been doing this about 40 years, so I have had plenty of opportunity to to fail in bulk. And it's, now I'd say it happens much less often now, because I have been able to learn so much. And so that's part of what I try to help people with when I am, when I'm creating trainings for them and things like that, is like, look, this is the way that I have found to have the greatest chance of success. And so that's, to me, the big value of having somebody that can mentor you, is that they're going to, if you're listening, they're going to save you from making a whole lot of the mistakes that they made. So yeah, I mean, but it happens constantly. I was trying to think if I could think of something recently, but oh well, yeah. So we spent a couple $1 million on software without having a good market for it built in, just because it kind of snuck in there. And over a period of about 2.5 years, we were spending $80,000-$90,000 a month on a software team. And then what they developed wasn't really marketable, and we didn't really have a market to sell it to, and nobody really was paying attention to it. It was just, yeah, we got this software thing going over here, and it's like, okay, cool. But it wasn't something that was at the top of our radar. So, that's a couple $1 million I would love to have back. And stuff like that happens. We've had I had 2 partnerships that I had to terminate recently. So you could say that's a failed partnership. I mean, but at the same time, we got together and we tried something that didn't work out. It wasn't a bad thing. We didn't sue each other or anything like that. It was just like, okay, well, we tried that and it didn't work out. So hopefully we'll find something in the future. So it's like, depends on what do you actually call a failure. Failure is every time something didn't go exactly the way you wanted it to, then I think you fail probably most of the time. But all of those, again, are data points on the path to where we want to go. I just got off a plane and came here to chat with you. And, they say planes are off course like 98% of the time because they're constantly correcting. And that's the key. So they fail literally. I flew from Las Vegas to San Diego, and my plane probably failed to take the right direction, the perfect direction, about 1,000 times in that flight, at least, right? But because there was course correction, because the GPS acts like the mentor to the plane saying, wait a minute, that's not exactly right. We're going to go back here. But I still made it. So like, if the sum of 1,000 failures resulted in the success of the thing that I wanted to accomplish, then the failures were actually kind of necessary to the success, right? So when you look at failure in that context, I think then you embrace it instead of repelling it, instead of fearing it, instead of running away from it, instead of letting it tyrannize you with, you better not take action because you might fail. It's like, hey man, I'm really excited about my next failure because I know that's going to get me closer to this place.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That was, 1,000. Yeah. Just put it into, perspective, 1,000 people, 1,000 tries or 1,000 corrections. But Roland, you have, again, like I think one great characteristic of you is getting along with people well, which we talked about what was the reason, but then it's just having and vetting and having great partnerships, which is what you just discussed, right? So
Yeah.
what would you say are the keys of finding the great partners to build long-lasting companies together or partnerships?
Well, I think everything is relationships. So I think that the key is you have to get out and meet people. And I know it's been hard the last couple of years because of all the pandemic stuff, but the truth is that this that we're doing right now is great, and that's a great way for us to get to know each other. But the ability for us to connect in person is significantly different, and the ability to have quality time. So I went over to Las Vegas to have dinner with Alex Hermosi and his wife Leela, and one of my business partners, Steve Harward. And we were talking about doing a deal, and that's the first time like I had bumped into Alex and Leela a couple of times, and he spoke at one of our events. But you don't really get to have any quality time, and so we had dinner, and that was really cool. But then he called me up this morning, or he texted me, and he said, hey, can you get together for a little bit? And so we went and had breakfast over where they live at the Mandarin, and just spent about an hour and a half talking and getting to know each other. And nothing is on the table to come out of that, but now we are closer. And we said, hey, let's stay in touch and see if anything happens. And like investing time in relationships without expecting anything to happen, and then being the person that if you see an opportunity to connect them with somebody, like we got to talk about some cool things. They shared some things with me that I was like, oh, that's really smart. And I was able to help them with some things too. And they're like, oh, we didn't ever think about that. Right. That is the beneficial exchange that you get. If you get nothing but helping somebody, that's a giant win because of the theory of reciprocity and just being a good human. And if they can help you, great. Right. But you got to get out and intentionally connect with people who are the kind of people that you want to work with. And that's super easy because there's so many masterminds and, like I said, like these cohort-based programs where you're with a group of people who are all moving in the same direction, and you've got leadership and guidance from some people who have a little bit more experience, that over and over and over. I pay for access. I pay to have people that I want to get connected with to either come and speak at events and then spend time with them and, make having dinner or lunch or something part of the deal. Or I'll buy their consulting time or whatever channel of access those people create. For me to go in and then have that connection is invaluable. So I'm constantly making the decision and taking the time and effort to do that.
Yeah, 1,000%. Another deal that happened in CFE was I already knew a person. Shout out to Mark Harris. I already knew a person there, and because we were in CFE together, we started developing a relationship. He saw me in the right frame of mind, and I ended up, now that there is a second CFE deal. So I told you about that one. This is another one, and it's. I think personally to say, the biggest growth factors have for me have been what you said, paying for access, developing those relationships. Just 1,000%. It's amazing.
And I think you got to consider that an investment, right? You made that investment. Now you've got 2 deals that you've done that you taught me about here, and probably more in the pipeline, right? That if you look at it that way, and you understand that if you are going to succeed, it's going to require you to invest in yourself. And when you make that decision, and that's investing your time and money, right, to make it happen, man, then you're always leveling up. You're always leveling up.
Yeah. Roland, question for you. How do we get 100,000 college students to learn what you're teaching?
Well, we keep putting it out there. So we've got a ton of content there. We talk about this on the Business Lunch podcast and, all the social. I've got TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and all those fun things going. So we're trying to put that out there now that way. And the more that we can do that, and the more we can get in front of people, the more we can do podcasts like this, I think the more we spread the word. And that's what starts a movement and makes things happen.
Okay, probably a better question would be, if you wanted to get in front of 100,000 or millions of students, or in front of a big university, what would you do?
I would partner with
Maybe that
somebody who,
question.
yeah, I would
Go
partner
ahead.
with somebody who was already there. So I know, like let's say that you want to speak at Harvard and get in front of those people, and it could be anywhere, but I'm just going to use that one. Well, Harvard has people who are outside of Harvard that aren't students that are constantly presenting to students there. So I would find out who are those people, and then I would connect with them and say, this is important. This is a message we've got to get out, and here's how it benefits you, and here's how it benefits your relationship with Harvard, and then go from there.
Mm.
Or somebody that had, a network, like maybe the UC network, University of California, or something like that, if I wanted to hit a larger group of people, or maybe even more of a community college or University of Phoenix, or one of the online places that would allow me to get. It's like, who's got distribution? How do you get any kind of thing to somebody who you want to get it to? Who's got distribution already in place? Those distribution channels already exist. All you have to do is identify them and tap into them.
Wow, I love that. I love that. I love that. So there you go. That's the answer for that, Roland. You don't looking outside in. From my situation, you don't have a lot of information, but what advice would you give someone like me in my situation? What would you tell me to do to just go to the next level with CFE and Epic and all this stuff that you teach?
Yeah, I think it's just try to identify the limiting beliefs that you've got, because at the point where you have the technical part, which is the how do you do stuff, then it really comes down to how are you able to execute audibles in the middle of what you're doing. And that only comes from experience. And you can't teach experience. You can't teach, this feels like I should do this here. You can do case studies and breakdowns and retroactive lookbacks and stuff like that. But the only way that you're really ever going to get better is to get more deals and more of your 10,000 hours under your belt to get that expertise level that's going to give you that unconscious competence that is so hard to get. So I think it's do more deals, identify the beliefs. Like whenever you hear yourself saying, I can't do that, or I don't see a way to make that happen, then ask yourself, what do I need? What would have to be true for that to happen? How would I have to be thinking differently to make that happen? Understand that we're always, me too, always thinking too small, right? I'm thinking too small because if I wasn't, I'd be Elon Musk, right? So it's,
Wow.
if you can keep that humility and understand, hey, I've had some successes, but that's nothing compared to the people that are changing the world at a much, much bigger level. That's nothing compared, if you want to talk about finances, that's nothing compared to the guy that's got almost $300 billion. That's nothing compared, it's like you are special, but you are not some big deal, no matter where you are, because there's always some bigger deal, right? And so don't get cocky. I mean, actually, I like being cocky, but don't get conceited, don't get complacent, don't get arrogant. And then know that you're always thinking too small. There's always another level that's up higher. Always, always, always. How do you get to that level? If you want to advance yourself, you've got to want it. You've got to be hungry for it, and you got to be willing to do whatever it takes to make it get there. Now, you may at some point say, and I have actually made this decision, there are other things that are important to me as well, more than just business. And I think some of the people who are the greatest business successes are horrible, personal successes. Their family lives are in disarray, and their relationships are in tatters. So it's important to me to have time with my family and things like that. And I'm absolutely certain that I would have more business success if I did not take that time. But I have carved that out and said, this is also very important to me. This is a priority. And that's kind of cool too, because then you can give yourself a break and say, well, why didn't I invent SpaceX? Well, because, I want to take care of my kids, and, sometimes it takes 100% of you for a long period of time to make some big dream come true business wise. And, I am excited about the things that I'm doing while I also have good relationships with my friends and my family. And, I'm a more balanced person because of that. Right.
Yeah, you touched that on that point that I'm so glad you touched on it, Roland, because I mean, how many people do you know, or me, or how many people do you know that are very successful and their personal life is in shambles? Like, if
Many.
like, would you say it's like 80% or like 90%?
No, I would say it depends because there are seasons of lives. I think that it depends on where people are, and also did they choose wisely with their friends and partners, with people that are going to be encouraging them and not, trying to hold them back, jealous of their success, or thinking that they're doing them a service by telling them that they're not going to be able to succeed, right? Because they're trying to protect them from failure or not, or this lack of success. But those are the wrong people to have in your life. So you also have to choose wisely to start with. But no, I mean, I would say it's probably closer to 50-50, and at least, in the circles I travel in.
Which is still a huge number. I was exaggerating a little bit, but like, still 50%. Why should it be 50% if not like 1% or 2%? Why is it 50%, right? Yeah. And you touched on it. It's just making time, right? That's the key to it. Making time, blocking time, making time for family. Is that the key?
Yeah, you have to block it out. If you don't block it out as an important appointment, then it's very easy for that time all to get eaten by the business monster.
There you go. Well, Roland, thank you so much. Last question. What would you tell yourself when you were 20? Go ahead.
What would I tell myself when I'm 20? I would say it's the change that has kind of happened to me in negotiation, is that I was quite aggressive when I was younger. I was like, how do I get the best deal? How do I do this? I'm, very, very much not focused on how did that impact the other person on the other side of the transaction? And was that something that they were doing that they felt bad about, which then ultimately they're going to, like, if they're involved in the deal going forward, they're subconsciously or consciously going to find a way to torpedo the deal. If it's not something they perceive to be fair, then they're going to tell 100 people that I took advantage of them, even though they agreed to the deal. And so for me, it would be, don't let people make deals that are not fair to them in your eyes. That's, to me, a fairness zone question, and that they're excited about, as opposed to like a grumbling acceptance or an unhappiness. It's like, okay, well, yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I really wanted to get more for it. And like, somebody says that, I'm like, you know what? Let's not do this right now, because I want you to be happy to do this. I want you to, now you may make the decision that selling this thing at this price is not what you were hoping to get for it, but I want you to understand that what you are getting for it, you feel good about, because it's going to allow you to do some other thing. I don't want the bad juju on whatever deal we're doing if you're not excited to do it. And so I've walked away from quite a few deals, and with people scratching their head going, but I said I would do it. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not excited about it. But I'm not excited about it. I know, that's why we're not doing it. What? It's but I really, that's what I would tell myself is you really want to cut deals that are fair, not let people make deals that are unfair, not let people make deals that they shouldn't, just because they're not as savvy or skillful, and try to be generous enough to create that situation where they're going to feel good about it. And it comes back so many fold. That one deal that you don't do, the 1,000 people that, the 10 or 100 people that they would have said you took advantage of them, that they would have told that to, instead they'll be like, and they wouldn't even do the deal because it's like, I'm not going to be happy with it. And then he gave me back some of my equity. And that is super, super powerful. I didn't get that when I was younger. I really didn't. I was just like, negotiate. Yeah, I can get all this, I'm going to, and then negotiate. And that's just not the best way to do it.
Wow. I'm so grateful for, you saying that, because I already see myself doing that already. So you're just almost like talking to me. And like what I've learned is what you said one thing that was probably filled with lots of experiences, which is people are going to consciously or unconsciously find a way to get out.
They will.
And that sounds very simple, but it's so deep. Like
I've
you
lived
might
it.
not
I've
even
lived it
realize
so many times. It's just like, I know. Ask me how I know.
So wow, it's just wow, amazing. Roland, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell
My
us
pleasure.
where can people go and find you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm everywhere on social. I have the Business Lunch podcast. If you're a podcast person, we have, I'm / Roland Fraser on everything from TikTok to LinkedIn to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And then we have our programs. We have a challenge we do called Get Epic Challenge for acquiring businesses with no money out of pocket. It's getepicchallenge.com. We've got consulting for equity.io because you're in and out of those deals. And those are probably the best places.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And for all of you listening, make sure to share and comment, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Young, Clever, and Wealthy podcast, and we'll see you soon.